Welcome. My name is Gena Timberman, and you are listening to Timber People, a podcast about people who, like timber, are strong, build and create, who gather us together like fuel that feeds fire. People who support structures of our community that uplift and protect. Welcome to the show, Halito Osio, Henshi. It's just an honor and a pleasure to welcome my friends, Jill, Shero McDaniel, and Caleb McDaniel with Indigenous Class to the show. Welcome to Timber People.
Thanks for having us, Gena. We like to have a fire here with you.
Loving the studio.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Today is a Monday for the listener, and there's not a whole lot I look forward to on Mondays because it's just like you got to get in your rhythm and your rhyme. And I have been just so excited about just being on the show with you today, which is Monday. And we've been talking about this, and I love everything that you're doing. And I know that you've had this beautiful journey individually, but also collectively. You're newlyweds. Congratulations.
She's living the dream.
I would say,
over
you're like one of the most stylish couples I know. I was saying earlier, you got the styles and the smiles.
We take all my swag. Inspired by Caleb for sure. He's got good swag.
Well, you are a couple that you're a force, and I can tell. Even before I really got to know you as friends, from a distance, seeing you, like you have this energy that really, you with what you do and who you are, bring people together. But you're also that you're a good friend. You can tell, and you bring that sense of joy and friendship and those feelings and that spirit about who you are individually and collectively to our gatherings and to the work you do. And I can't wait to dive in and talk a little bit about your journey together. But, before the show, we were talking about where we're from. And that is so important. And that is something really special about all people. But with our Native people, these communities that we're from, we're really connected, especially in this Oklahoma experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I met Caleb in Tulsa. What was that, 3 years ago, babe?
Mm-hmm.
Just looked real confident, like he already knew me. And I was like, who is this guy? But after
at
that,
you kind of get to a point where you know most of the people in the room.
Oh, right,
For our Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association, and I saw her across the room, and I kind of eyed her, and I was like, I do not know this little lady. I need to go introduce myself.
I was like, I think you're supposed to swipe right or something. Like, I don't think you just walk up to someone and ask them out on a date. But he did. He said, hey, I'm Caleb, and I'd like to take you to dinner sometime. And I'm like, it cannot be this easy. And after that, it was just history. We ended up going out, and we had the time of our lives. And after that, we were doing life, weren't we, baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you're the kind of couple where, and you can see this in friends and different people too, is, it feels like you've always known one another, at least from my perspective. And that's really cool. Talking about that swipe right, and as a single person thinking about the dating life and
it is not easy out there.
No, it is not. But maybe you just hit on something that could be like a native dating. It's like saunter up instead of swipe right.
I like
with
that.
Hat in hand.
Snag up, saunter up, saunter up, snag up. I don't know.
We may be onto something here.
Yes, I know.
But yeah. Well, speaking of online presence, like your online presence with everything that you're doing and, watching from a distance for years. I know, Caleb, you've been involved in the gaming world and working with your community and with your tribe. And Jill, you've been involved in politics and education and community, both of you. And I love that it's like Wonder Twin powers activate. And what you're doing with your program is really incredible, engaging so many talented people around Indian country from different levels of leadership, from the grassroots to political, tribal leaders, educators, and people who inspire and connect. is really great. And so, yeah, I just, I want to hear about your journey and how like your wonderful business started.
Well, we were like on a road trip, weren't we?
Mhm.
Yeah, we were headed back from Tahlequah. We were supporting one of our friends that was doing a stickball tournament.
Yeah, Chairman Darrell
Yeah, it was
Cooper
Chairman
over at
Darrell.
Apache.
And, Caleb was cheering him on. I was cheering him on. And we were hanging out in Tahlequah and driving back. And Caleb and I were both just stretched in our own fields of work. He was working gaming 6 and 7 days a week. And I was working so much development and different projects, just having me, stretched for time. And I looked over at him and I said, babe, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? And he said, my favorite thing in the world is to mentor my able kids in business. And we just kind of paused on that for a minute. And we thought about, he shares with me about his able kids that he mentors and how much they mean to him. And so I know their stories as well. And it was at that moment that that idea and the inception of Indigenous Class was born, because we thought of all the Native leaders that could teach on a digital platform and share on a wider scale across Indian country, and how many leaders that are already mentoring and doing incredible work that maybe aren't getting the highlight that they deserve. And so Indigenous Class was born on that road trip. Like, we saw the logo, the website, everything was in our minds just immediately. It was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, that night we ended up purchasing the URL handle.
Right.
We searched GoDaddy.com and it was available. And, Indigenous Class, with a $99 debit card swipe,
Right.
we owned it. So.
Isn't it amazing, like when something's right and meant to be, then it just naturally comes together. And I think sometimes when things aren't coming together the way that we want them to in life, personally or professionally, we have to remember that is like, okay, maybe this is, maybe my plan's puny, maybe the bigger plan is the more powerful. And so the fact that it just started coming together like that seamlessly and is really important. And I love that you've taken, we're talking about like master class, and like but I love the statements like, this is my Indigenous class. It really is like, this is my story. There's a sense of ownership and individuality, in addition, like right intertwined, braided, if you will, with a collective desire to connect and to inform and mentor and to educate. We think about our Native values and it's about that reciprocity, that exchange, but our responsibilities. And so I think, when we have leaders and knowledgeable people, it's so important that there is a platform like the work you do to connect and to enable that to happen in a beautiful way.
Yeah, during COVID, we had both downloaded Masterclass,
Right.
and we subscribed and got a subscription, and we both love to learn that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, with a visual teacher like that and a story and something we could connect to, and we were just thinking, we were like, man, we could create a platform like that, but instead of celebrities, if you will, like Masterclass is kind of set up, we could have that for Indian country.
Right. It's important. We're tribal peoples. In fact, really humans are tribal peoples, but we need one another. And so to have avenues by which we can connect and lean on one another and learn from one another, it's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much greatness that comes out of these type of stories, right? Like if you look at Sterling Harjo's Res Dogs, right? When they had a full Native writers room, I mean, that thing took off. When you surround yourself with our own community,
Absolutely.
it can really be genuine.
Absolutely.
And our goal was to have a platform where, maybe some of our stuff, maybe Indigenous Class will show up on other platforms or other media outlets. We want to make our classes as accessible as possible. But our goal wasn't to lob up to Netflix or, Amazon or any of those. Our goal was to have a place where natives are inspired by natives, and it's a place where our stuff lives, you know?
Right. I love the mentorship capacity, like with that too, and opportunities, along with the education and along with that, the human voice in that storytelling of this is my, like saying that this is my Indigenous class is like I said, the spirit or the story. So I really like it's great. It's really great.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
had
we
some
were kind of naive starting out.
Mhm.
We had no idea what production costs were going to be. We had no idea.
I mean, sometimes you just have to like lean into it and like, I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
At this point, we were just dating, and we had this, I felt like we were pregnant, like with this vision of Indigenous class.
Right.
It was like this baby that we were just ready to build. And so we put together a film crew, and we worked out a contract with the First Americans Museum to film there.
Yes, I love it.
And Shoshana and her team were awesome in that. And then we worked with Walter Boyd as a producer. And so all the pieces just came together so incredibly. But the sacrifice of wanting to get it started, we didn't really have time to fundraise. We just wanted to get it started. So we both cashed out our 401ks and said, we're going all in. This is our baby. We're building this.
I mean, that's the commitment. Like you had a marriage before you had the marriage.
Right?
We really did, yeah.
And if you really want to get to know your spouse before you marry them, start a business.
Yeah, I mean, but we need our people in the trenches.
Yeah.
And you guys got to test some trenches. And,
We did.
And we do in different ways, sometimes. And I love that. And we need our friends and we need our partners in life to be there in that. And so it's kind of like that three-legged stool. Like it's not going to stand up if you don't have like certain, things coming to the table, like that partnership and that professionalism. Like you have the education side, the mentorship, like, I don't know, but it's just like you need those things coming together for it to be stable, have that stability. And I really, our people, our tribes, we've always been resilient people. We've always been creative. We've always been courageous. And it's really brave and courageous what you two have done together.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, when are you ready to do one on journalism and podcasting? Because we have so many youth interested in interviewing, podcasting, journalism. And like this medium is like such a new wave of opportunity.
And accessible.
Yeah, it really is. I would never consider my name next to the word journalism, but I'm a person that just, I'm an Indian girl doing Indian things, and I like to talk, and I like to see my friends like you guys, and just connect. And sometimes you just have to, walk into something and say, "We'll figure it out." We'll figure it out. And it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, thank you for that, though. But I mean, anything I could ever do to support your program. I know you have really great thematic approaches from like leadership and communications to awareness and safety. We just had, Lorinda Morgan on talking about MMIP issues. I know that human trafficking is a priority, issue for you both in the prevention and addressing that awareness. I really appreciate the videos that you've put out in Indian country.
Lorinda's amazing. Her work that she does with MMIP chapters, she really helps tribes set that foundational support for victims and families who have experienced trafficking. And so she's a go-to in my book on, seeking resources, seeking information. Most of my work, Caleb and I, what we do is more preventative education with youth. There are a lot of red flags with social media and then predatory grooming. And that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're aware of those red flags that you're not going to be a victim of trafficking. Right. But there are a lot of signals usually along the way that parents and students can be aware of. Heck, if you're anybody with a vulnerability, in Indian country, I mean, you're 12 times more likely to be trafficked as a woman or a girl in Indian country than any other demographic of any other person. So just understanding your vulnerabilities and being aware of red flags, being aware of your surroundings, it's powerful. So we're all about just the youth education, and Lorinda and her team, I mean, they are on the ground with victims and families. They're really doing the work.
Well, you're really connecting all of this spheres of influence, and that's empowering for Indian country and then for communities. And I also love how, I know that there are trainings, and I've been really blessed and honored to be a part of some of the trainings and activities, but and that's important. But like the fact that you have a very conversational, informal, like you can see a video of you, holding a cup of coffee, talking about it, and it's accessible, and it's just like as people are available, it's not like you have to do it on a specific date and time. Like you have that content that lives, that people can share, and to really promote that awareness. And so I really love that style too. I think it's really accessible, and I think it's really approachable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell them about Coffee with Caleb.
Yeah. So with Indigenous Class, we thought it would be kind of naive just to shoot all of this production and put it up on a social platform and just think that everybody's just going to start buying subscriptions. So Jill and I had talked about be kind of spokespersoning the content, of doing a Monday morning drop with Coffee with Caleb, just to kind of give kind of like a little bit deeper dive of why we shot this, what it's about, so with Robert Mesa's and Miss Jill's and Andrew's, Chairman Andrew Alejandre out in California, we chose to highlight those three for our launching month, but thereafter we'll be dropping a class a month.
It's really great. And this being, Native Heritage Month, it's really important to have you on the show too. And just really, promoting an awareness of what you're doing. Also, I want to say, I know that you guys support so much in Indian country. And how can people support the work that you do?
That's a great question. So indigenousclass.com, you can go on and purchase a subscription, similar to like a Netflix, where, $9.99 a month, and you get full access. When we first started, I was kind of reading the backstory of Masterclass and kind of how they got started as a business. And one thing in the comments was, I wish we could pay monthly, instead of an annual payment.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of make it as affordable as possible to
I know.
be able to get that.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really, I think it's important that it's accessible and you respond to what you're hearing, out there. And, there are platforms that are doing that like Patreon and others. And I think it's important that you're doing that. I will be signing up. I'm surprised I haven't already, but I will 100% be signing up. I hope the listeners will too.
Yeah, snag you up a subscription out there, Indian country. That one subscription that you might get is going to help us keep telling our stories.
Yeah, there's a thirst for lived wisdom, I think, with the youth of Indian country. I think there's a shared grief and there's a shared moment of progress that we're having in encouraging each other across tribes, across our nation. And I feel like this is like a hope channel for us to not just share our stories, our overcoming moments, but then also to dive deep into our careers and what makes us successful and how are we doing it and what makes us tick. Sometimes I feel like when we get into our networking type of modes, or we're in, other tribal events, we put on our good polished face, but we're not always telling about what challenge we had to overcome. What it meant to us to get to where we are. And it means a lot to hear these stories. Like, I'm changed by these leaders every single time we film. I learn so much.
Absolutely.
Yes. So it's mask off, just total vulnerability and beautiful teachings. Yeah.
And it's very interesting when we're on set. We do a pre-production meeting, in person or in Zoom if you're out of the state. And, once they get in front of the camera, how emotional sometimes they'll get telling these stories where they might have, like, that's how vulnerable some of these stories get.
Well, I appreciate, I've been working in that realm with some of the work that I've done in the past and presently, and I appreciate the fact that you create an environment where someone feels comfortable to be vulnerable, especially as Native people. It's important. That's not always the case. And so that is real.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to set the tone where our producer, Walter Boyd, he's such a great coach. He's got such great communication where when we do our pre-production that, we already kind of get a tone of what the class is going to be on the day of. So it's definitely a safe space.
So one of the filmings that sticks out to me was Leslie over at Teton, CEO of Teton, Delaware Lenape. She just absolutely had one of the most fantastic filmings. And we just heard her passion for her family, for her legacy, and then her passion to educate people she leads. Right. So she went into the nitty-gritty of how she actually goes and educates and works with each department so that they're all on the same page of how to read spreadsheets and how to read budgets. And those are sometimes difficult things as a leader to approach because half the room may not know what they're reading or what they're looking at. But to make sure that the heart is not to embarrass or put anyone down, but to exalt them and promote them and to really make each person feel very valuable. That filming changed my life.
Yeah, that was a good one, because the importance of Teton being a trade cloth enterprise for the Delaware tribe of Indians over there, with them being a non-gaming nation, that is a huge business that they've got to keep rocking and rolling with. So
it's vital. It's important. You support that. And, I think it's so interesting how leadership and knowledge shows up in so many different and beautiful ways sometimes. Oftentimes we think about the elected process and grateful for, our strong Native leaders who, are in those positions. But there's an opportunity for people to witness leadership in different ways in the community and in commerce and in culture. And with education, sometimes there are cultural knowledge givers and, are people that often may not be recognized. I really love that you're sensitive to that.
Yeah, you'll see some Native leaders that are well recognized in Indian country. And then you're going to see some people on Indigenous Class that have real skill sets and real giftings, and they share them and they mentor others. But they're maybe not well known. Maybe their name isn't well known, but they'll become that way. So that's our goal and to make their skill set available across Indian country is our goal. We give a sovereignty discount for tribes who buy subscriptions at more than 100 or 1,000 subscriptions at a time. We give a super reasonable price for sovereignty, and we want to see them utilize that platform for digital sovereignty, for them to be represented. Yeah.
Right. I love how you've created something kind of quote unquote new, but it's really nothing new for you two or for Indian country. You're just bringing it all together and you're informed by your respective experiences and the work that you've done in the past and the relationships and friendships you have. So I love that you're putting the building blocks together to do this, especially together. Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun with my gaming background. I got to help build about 148 relationships out there throughout Indian country, working with that amount of tribes. Right. So with on that journey, I was able to kind of really meet some of the most wood chopping guys and girls out there in Indian country. That's why it was so important to tell Chairman Drew's story, because when he got elected chairman, chief of his tribe, he was 27. So he was the youngest chairman in Indian country.
Right.
And he goes through the highs and the lows of going through, an elected position and how that's tough with your own family and how it gets dicey politically, and also how to learn from others when you're a young leader, because you do have the ability to lead as a young leader, but you still have to be humble enough to learn from elders and other mentors that have wisdom, and have lived wisdom.
Right. And I love that you bring up, it's not just about the highs, it is about the lows and what lessons learned.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have a lot of lessons learned and still have to learn in my, on my journey, that, that's why our people, like we're Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, other tribes, we still sing our songs of removal, because we're all still on our journey. And I really appreciate everything you're doing in Indian country and what you contribute to the journey of so many people. And Jill and Caleb, it has been such a pleasure and an honor and a blessing to have you on the show. And I support you 100%. And I just can't wait to see what you do.
We need you to come to a filming.
Oh, I will. You tell me where to be no matter what. And I'll be there for anything you got. And for the listener, they're just so enjoyable and just really special people to be around socially and as well as professionally. So I just want to say Yakuki, Vado, as well as. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Gena.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Yakuki, thank you for joining us. Timber People is brought to you by the Possibilities Podcast platform.